So now that you had a chance to just understand just the fundamentals of what Shopify Payments offers, what Stripe offers, some of the KYC and KYB requirements that are required to onboard and successfully implement a payment processor, the next aspect is really diving into the industry risk matrix and the product risk that's associated to the underwriting criteria. A lot of cases, again, most of the clients that we do work with are using a PayFac such as Stripe or Shopify Payments, or they onboard with PayPal, but every industry is going to be looked at differently depending on the risk profile of the products that you're selling and the regions that you are selling to as well. I've kind of chunked this out, and the most common clients that we see are kind of in one of three categories. And the first one is high risk. And so anything that's medically device related or in substances or even cosmetics we've seen lately, these are just scrutinized a bit more than what a traditional hard good would be scrutinized as, such as like a phone case or something for your pets or pet supplies, whatever it may be. So anything that's consumable, for example, a medical substance, something that's like weight loss or anything dietary, there's certain compliance requirements depending on the region that you're selling into. And so they have to fulfill some of those compliance requirements and conduct testing and ensure that they have these rigorous reviews to ensure that there's no harm to the end consumer. So there's just a lot more review around that, which can ultimately lead to shutdowns or further processing reviews if complaints were to come in or things are unsubstantiated or even during your initial underwriting process. From a medical device perspective, this seems to be a little bit popular just because ultimately you're trying to solve the problem of the consumer, and in most of the cases it's pain related. You're really solving a pain point, literally and figuratively speaking, with the product that you're selling. But with this, we see a lot of gimmicks around this or certifications such as doctors on a website or validating that, hey, if you do this for 30 days or 45 days, you're going to experience less pain, less rigor around what may be happening. That's where you have to understand is that when underwriters are looking at this, they're looking at the potential exposure of chargeback risk. If you're making these claims or if some harm were to happen by somebody consuming your substance, or if the substance doesn't work, then there's chargeback risk and exposure. And in most cases, it's going to be a 6-month chargeback window. For certain cards and certain card holders, the chargeback window can be a year or even longer in some cases. So in order to mitigate risk, there are certain policies and requirements that each provider is required to kind of adhere to. They're looking at that beyond just the ability of you running a successful business and monetizing that. The other piece of this too is cosmetics. Very popular. There's a lot of different beauty options or opportunities that are out there. And so when you're looking at picking a product or if you're selling a product, cosmetics is one of those products where that's going to come with additional scrutiny as well. And there are some banks that won't take any of these. When you're looking at setting up with a merchant services provider, it's important that they have experience in this industry, whether it's medical device, medical substance, or consumables, whatever it may be. And then with cosmetics, again, they're all kind of grouped into one bucket that I've seen within banking and industry risk. The other piece of this too that's been a little bit more challenging as of late is with apparel and clothing. When a new entrepreneur starts out and let's say they're doing drop shipping or they're looking to pick out a brand and really go to market in methodical way, is that I see a lot of mistakes made from young entrepreneurs where they're starting with a large line of clothing. So they have, let's say, 70 products with men and they have 100 products of women's apparel, right? So there's 170 products that are going to be sold, right? And they sign with one manufacturer or supplier who's not only developing or sourcing the product, but then shipping the product as well. There's a few different issues with that, right? There's a lot of product quality issues that can potentially happen just because, again, as a brand new entrepreneur and looking at this it's very, very hard to control just the quality of the product that's being delivered because in most likelihood, you're not testing or validating all that. And this is more specific for drop shipping if you're doing drop shipping. The other piece too is on the shipping lanes. So I see a lot of mistakes happen with entrepreneurs that they are selling clothing, but they're selling it to multiple areas within Europe or even selling them internationally. It's very hard to control just the shipping timelines that are routed to one part of the world versus the other. That's where you see these chargebacks and refunds start to spike because if you're selling 170 products, you're not going to have a very good feel of what products may be winning or what products are kind of the bad products per se. the sizing could be off, right? So this thing where sales start to come in, it could overwhelm your service team with questions, or maybe they want to change out for a different size, or something's off with the sizing in general. They just don't want it anymore. This could really overwhelm a young operator, which can lead to ultimately a shutdown in the business or funding holds or whatever it may be. And so that's where you have to be smart in making sure that you're moving things in a more methodical way with, again, keeping the customer at the top of what you do. The other piece of it is as well, again, as I mentioned, it just goes on the shipping timeline. So with shipments, you want to keep it region specific to start off. You want to be very, very strategic in exploiting a market, going after it, and then just expanding upon that market once you have proven success. So trying to go big all the time and trying to push this monetary achievement that you're looking to do, you got to look at it in a different way and keep that customer at the top. That's something that we're seeing a lot of. Even high risk processors, they're starting to kind of back away from even some of these wide cast clothing and apparel companies. The other thing is there's a lot of ripoffs out there. If you're looking to get into apparel or sell, whether it's your own brand or you're doing drop shipping, there's a lot of ripoffs that are out there. So that can lead to intellectual property issues or even lawsuits in some cases. So that's where you have to be smart and strategic in picking, the product that you want to sell. But, this also correlates to the payment processing aspect as well. What I try to look at, in terms of like a quality or winning option is keeping things very small in terms of like what your niche is and really focusing and going all in on that. I see a lot of successful entrepreneurs that are just focusing on like one item or maybe just a handful of items up to 5, right? And so everything has a theme, whether it's, pet products or niche like related electronic devices or gadgets in some shape or form. Those are the most successful entrepreneurs that I see because they're very focused on their niche. They have a great story. They're not trying to go super wide on their product line, and they're really just maximizing what they have in front of them and then building a really, really good focus on their ideal customer profile, right? So again, we have clients that are focusing on pet niches, specifically for women, for example, are selling products for owners that would help just protect their car. So when like a bigger dog goes in the back, usually they shed. So there's tools and resources where they really focus on that pain point, exploit it, and then they're adding on different products such as different sprays or like pet cologne, right? Because the item that they were selling was protecting the backseat of the car if you were to put your dog back there. But they also have different things that deodorize the dog and things like that. So again, very creative ways to go to market. You just have to really think through it. And it's not just a one size fits all type of a focus. So segueing off of that, where I see issues, and again, payment processors look at this too, is that, when you're selling 15 different or 20 different products, but none of these products align, right? It could be a t-shirt, and then it's a microphone or a headphone, whatever it may be. And then it's a blanket, and it is some random cosmetic device or cosmetic item, I should say. So you have really 4 to 5, or it could be up to 15 different products that are completely all different, right? And this is more for people that are doing product testing or drop shipping. They're trying to find out what one's winning, what one's not. For payment processors, that's, an automatic sign that you're just doing drop shipping. You're just trying to see what sticks against the wall. Right? There's really no story. It's just a general drop shipping store. The story is very, very light. There's really nothing to it. It's very difficult to have a sustainable processor beyond just Shopify payments or Stripe, but they'll probably cut you off after you hit certain volume amounts. So you really got to extract and niche down and kind of go all in on that versus just trying to cast a wide net and just be a one for all. Those are some things just from like understanding product and industry risk. The product that you pick and what you do will have a direct correlation to what the processor thinks of, your overall relationship, right? So anything medical, device or substance, cosmetics, things of that nature, they're subject to just a different underwriting standard or different industry risk. And things that are they have a high level of return, or there could be product issues such as like large lines of apparel. That's going to be scrutinized differently than, let's say, somebody focusing on a niche that they only have a handful of products. It's a lot easier to control. They have a compelling story that would be deemed lower risk. The last piece is like if you have this general store with a mixed bag, it's again, that's going to be deemed more higher risk than others as well. So that gives you kind of the breakdown. So when you're looking at your store, look at it from an underwriter's lens. Is the product set different and things like that? Focusing in on one niche, which again, most of the clients that I work with do. There's segments within those niches that, hey, this is higher risk and here's why, this is medium and this is low. That'll give you a pretty good idea on who will take you and who won't, and why Shopify Payments and Stripe won't be able to support things such as medical devices or Nutra or whatever it may be. Hope that gives you some inside edge in terms of exactly how products and what you're selling is looked at behind the scenes with different processors and payment providers that are out there.